Actually, we're school board members. and
Now
get
you've
involved
been
in
here.
this.
So when
many
your
years,
thing
right.
is red,
It's,
that means
That's
the speaker's
right.
on.
Oh, okay.
He's been here a long time.
Oh, so okay, you want to be chair?
We're gonna nominate you for chair.
I've been in different boards.
A year?
No, you were before us.
But you were, maybe we've been here.
You just didn't come on this last year.
I'm on the.
You and
We're about
Danny
ready
have
to
been on
start.
for a while.
It just was so much fun.
Yeah.
It's just been flying away.
All right, we're ready to start.
I believe it's 4 o'clock. We don't have our former chair of the advisory board is no longer on the board. However, I do need a request that a advisory board member call to order and do the roll call, please.
Could we call the, since it's right here, I might as well hit it. We'll call this to order. Could we have a roll call?
Bruce Richardson.
Ann Zimmerman.
Laurie Pencratz.
Bonnie Schamberger.
John Miller.
And I would also request if someone can request of us
We can
that
ask.
the Kansas Open Meeting Act requirement has been confirmed.
Just say that.
Yes, I request that the staff confirm that the Kansas Open Meetings Act required notice has been properly provided.
It was.
Thank you. Oh, we're out of order.
And I want to just, for the public interest, make sure we do have a quorum. There are 7 members of the board. We have a majority of the board, and this is a valid meeting. As I previously stated, our former chair of this board was no longer on the board, so we would need to nominate and vote for a chairperson. We do have an existing vice chair, who is Matthew, who is not here today. It's really up to the board if you wish to go ahead and nominate and vote on a new chair, or if you wish to do a temporary chair for today's meeting and wait till we have Matthew returning the next month.
Bruce, are you interested? Would you be willing to be our chair?
I'll try.
Okay. So we'll make a nomination for Bruce Richardson to be chair.
I second it.
Then you need to vote on that.
Could we have a vote on for Bruce Richardson for chair of the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee?
All in favor? Raise your right hand.
Either.
All opposed? Same sign.
You're up in.
Even though the name says his.
We'll find out.
Yeah, that's all right. I think you just have to follow the agenda.
So as I stated before, we do have Matthew, who is not present today, however, is returning for a second term to serve on the advisory board. We also have a new member of the advisory board, John Miller. Welcome, and thank you for being part of our board, and thank you for serving the city of Salina on a board. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Excited to be here. I love this town and love all of our parks. So,
Thank you. So if you want to go ahead and go through the agenda, Mr. Richardson.
Introduction again. Oh, yeah.
Do we have any introduction of guests?
We do have a few people in the audience that are part of new business
So there are no
New
guests.
business? Okay.
that I see.
So we don't have to do the citizens forum since nobody is here. Anybody make approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All in disfavor say same sign. Oh, okay. Activities reports,
Oh, we have to approve the minutes. Minutes.
minutes?
We have to approve
Oh, approval of minutes, I'm sorry.
the minutes.
I'm jumping ahead.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second it.
Okay, been approved. Motion approved and seconded. Any, all in favor say aye.
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 All not in favor say same sign. Okay, minutes been approved. Okay, now we go to activities report.
Thank you. I typically try to highlight some things. I did not get a chance to highlight some things, but I'll go through the activity reports. And again, of course, I'll highlight the several items. If there are questions relating to anything I did not cover or what I did cover, please let me know. I'll speak about Jerry Ivy Pond under old business. We're finished installing new grills within our parks. And part of our master plan items were to replace wood on picnic tables, and that's about 90% complete. And water fountains are about 95% complete. Again, these are some master plan items that we talked with you about a year ago that we are moving forward on. Just as a side note, we are preparing for a presentation with the City Commission regarding master plan updates. What we're doing now, what we have accomplished from the master plan that was done in 2018, what we're currently still working on, and what we plan on working on for 2024 to accomplish more master plan items. And once I get that presentation ready, it'll be October 2nd, and I'll have that presentation for you in the month of October at this meeting, so you can review it as well. Started removing tennis courts at Oakdale Park to prepare for pickleball. My intention today was to have pickleball pictures for you because we started pouring concrete this morning. And if you haven't been by Oakdale Park to see the construction of those pickleball courts, they are moving rather quickly. I would suggest you check it out.
Now, they're going to be 8 or 10?
10.
10, okay.
Yeah, 10 courts. Concrete projects as part of our master plan. They're getting back into Jerry Ivy, and Jerry Ivy will be, I guess I'm stealing my thunder from old business, but a lot going on. Berkley Park improvements. And this is also the time of year where our landscaping crew goes in and starts addressing landscape beds, or readdressing landscape beds. Forestry. Therapeutic recreation program that we brought back this year that hadn't been something that we're able to offer since COVID time. We have a pretty strong growing therapeutic recreation program and a strong user base or interest base of those programs. And we have 3 upcoming special events: Christmas party, Halloween party, and New Year's Eve party. We are changing the Christmas party slightly this year. And I think we'll have more for that, more to share in the future for that. Some Kenwood Cove information about the end of the season. And our pooch plunge.
Jeff, on Kenwood Cove, how did it compare to last year? I mean, did we have more people? It seemed like there was a lot more.
I'm going to have Andrea Linder answer that question, our aquatic supervisor, if she's willing.
Yes. So actually, we were down a little bit from last year. In terms of our regular day passes sold, everything seemed to be about 1,000 less. In terms of our adult day passes through the whole summer, youth day passes, our memberships were about the same, but our youth memberships were down about 20 youth memberships that were sold, and revenue-wise, we were also down for the whole summer. One of the things that I started doing last year to kind of help explain that, because obviously being outside, the weather plays into it. And one of the things that I did notice in terms of averages the high temperature for every day was about the same from 22 to 23, but our average temperature as a whole was down about 3 degrees from 22 to 23, and we did have a lot more rain this summer than we did in the past.
Yeah.
So,
One item that Andrea shared with me was, I think the number of days closed was 7. Approximately 7. Some years we had 1.5 days of being closed at Kenwood Cove because of weather.
so we were only closed one full day, which was the same as in 2022, but partial days where a storm hit mid-afternoon. In 2022, it was 5 days. We were 12 days this year that we had to close in the middle of the day because of the storm.
Which certainly would impact day pass sales and attendance as well. So it was an above average year for the number of closures due to weather compared to other years. And that's Kansas weather for you, I guess. Travis is not here. I would have him. He'll be coming a little bit later. Actually, he had a personal matter to attend to.
I had a question about the golf course. You're talking about the aging fleet of the golf carts,
Yes.
and has anyone ever thought of like spacing them out, buying one a year, and then you only have one go bad, and then all the rest of them are slowly getting bad?
The original purchase of 50 carts all were bought at the same time, so they're all aging at the same time. That was in 2014. I think we took delivery of of those carts in 2015. The golf course is a enterprise fund, so they're required to earn more revenue than they spend in their operational fund. The city has subsidized some things, especially when it comes to equipment, and we typically don't do that with equipment that we typically don't take equipment out of their fund because they have such a tight turnaround on expenses versus revenues. So the city does supplement their operation with those capital purchases of equipment. In 2024, there is a request of funding that's subject to approval by the governing body to replace all 50 of those carts, and they're looking at electric carts. We have considered doing what you suggest, but we would not be able to purchase those necessarily through the sub-CIP or the capital improvement fund. We would most likely look at their operating fund, and their operating fund just doesn't have it because of how tight their profitability is or their covering of all their expenses to purchase reliably those replacements on a more frequent basis.
So life expectancy is about 8 years of golf carts?
That's where we're pushing, but the manufacturers really say 5 years. So we've exceeded the life of our gas fleet for golf carts by about 3 years.
So is leasing an option?
Leasing is an option, and we've looked at both. To get more details, I'd have to have the golf staff here, and they are not here for this meeting right now. I can have them come in a future meeting. We did look at that exercise to look between lease and buy. Overall, it was less expensive to buy, is my understanding and my recollection of the conversation with them. But if you're interested, I can have them on the agenda for next month, and they can go into a little more details about their examination of lease versus buy, battery versus gas, because they've done a pretty thorough examination of that to prepare for their funding request for 2024.
So the city actually supplements what you're saying is the golf course.
Yeah, we do subsidize for some of the large expenses, the capital items for vehicles and equipment, and also irrigation system that we installed 4 or 5 years ago. That was $1.5 million irrigation system at the golf course, and that was subsidized by the city. They can't pay for everything from what they are from the revenue. I'm sorry.
This golf pays for most stuff.
They don't have to have quite as good a greens, I don't think, but probably it helps the city if you have very efficient water usage.
Yeah.
So they will, in the report, they will compare the gas with the electric carts then, and then we can tell that.
If the board wishes for them to come to the October meeting, I can make that happen, and they can come give a
Well,
report.
I'd be curious to see what the difference
Yeah.
of the price is.
Sure, okay. I can do that. Any other questions before I go through? Let's see. We have a lot on here. Do you have any other questions about any other item on the activity report?
What's the picture with the blue, people, everybody in blue and the kind of orange roof there?
That is at Magnolia Soccer Complex. That was from a August event called Soccer Fest. The everybody in blue is Kansas Wesleyan soccer players. And Soccer Fest this is a second year of a program that's a special event that we partner with Kansas Wesleyan and partner with 99 KG, the radio station, to kind of promote the sport of soccer. It just so happens that day was like 108 degrees, and we get some donations. We have some food available. We do some soccer skills. It's not a soccer game day. It's more about promoting this sport of soccer and giving away some donations and having a fun time. We had to adjust the time of that event to earlier so we can avoid the afternoon heat of that day. But that's what that picture is referring to.
Thank you.
Well, back on the animal shelter, why did you have to go to a study session for the city commission?
There were members of the community. So let me back up a bit. During COVID time, and also in conjunction with a National Animal Control Association study, there were some changes made. Part of it was because of the results of COVID, and also part of that study. We changed the operation of the animal shelter to be a by appointment only, and we also put some mechanisms in to increase security, increase control and access to the facility. The members of the public, some people don't agree with that plan. They wish for the animal shelter to go back to being fully open without an appointment, to come into the shelter, to review the animals in the kennels, to be able to look at the animals closer. Also, the staffing, they've had some rough go at it regarding the number of staff they have. We had a position vacant that we were trying to fill that we just filled recently. We also had a position that was on leave. So when that normally happened in the past, many years ago, we had a pretty strong volunteer program. And before COVID, we had 100+ volunteers that helped and assisted at the shelter. And during COVID, after COVID occurred, that volunteer program reduced to less than 30 volunteers. And so some of that was putting some stress on staff to accomplish all the items that needed to occur to comply with state law for the Kansas Pet Animal Care Act. And but we so we're taking their, we're looking at all the comments that are coming in. We're listening to the public. We're looking at the possibility of changing the operation of the animal shelter, and that's where that's at right now.
And you inherited the animal shelter, so because it used to be the county's.
Previous to 2014, it was a county operation, and at the time, the county approached the city, and the city had an opportunity to bring the animal services under the city, under a city division. And instead of, there was some, I guess, I wasn't here at the time, but, what department would the animal services division be reporting to? Would it be reporting to the police division, or would it report to Parks and Rec? And the decision at the time in 2014 was that the animal services division reports to Parks and Recreation.
I just didn't know if it was that study going on, if they were looking at moving it, or just wanted to know more really what the animal shelter did.
I think, I don't believe that's a concern or a question on the table. I believe that just they want to have more access without the appointment system is the primary request of the public.
Was there a number of adoptions that went down with the appointments? Or
Slightly. It's also in conjunction. It did go down slightly, but the number of adoptable animals that have been available has also decreased. So I couldn't say with absolute fact that the change of going from an adoption, open adoption, if you will, to an appointment-only type of adoption system resulted exactly in the reduction of adoptions. Nationwide, it's there is more animals available than adoptions are occurring. So the animal shelter here in this town, in Salina, and this is also somewhat nationwide, there are more intakes occurring than adoptions are outcomes. So more intake than outcomes. So the animal shelter is packed with animals. We have lots of animals that are strays, surrenders. Some are available right as of last Monday, the September 11th, there were only 6 adoptable animals, but 40 plus total dogs. I'm sorry, there were 6 adoptable dogs, but there were over 40 plus dogs in the shelter itself. And some are being held for court cases. Some are strays, some are pit bulls that were awaiting a transfer agreement to transfer them out of state or out of town. Because as you're aware, I imagine you're aware, there's breed-specific legislation the city has for an ordinance restricting pit bulls or pit bull terriers. And so we get pit bulls, and we are dedicated to being a no-kill shelter. So we try to find transfer agreements with different shelters or different humane societies around the country. And that's been difficult because they're packed as well. They don't have room. They have too many pit bulls as it is, so whatever reason it might be. And just recently, we were able to move some animals. We transferred 2 animals to Colorado last week. We're transferring an animal to New Jersey in October, and we have 2 more going back to Colorado and New Jersey as well. So,
And that's all because we're a no-kill facility?
it's we're dedicated to the preservation of dogs.
And
No kill.
why did we determine that? Why did we decide this?
Why did we determine? to
Why did we I mean, I understand it, but, when you have, like, with the wolf dog you're talking about and the pit bulls, they're illegal dogs. I'm sorry. It's just, I know it's not the dog's fault, but we're paying for a lot of things that seem like we shouldn't have to be paying for. I know you can't answer that question. That's just
Yeah.
my opinion as a citizen here going, it frustrates me that, these illegal animals that are here, and we have to find out something to do with them or keep them and keep feeding them. So
Do you know how long it's been a no-kill shelter? Because it wasn't always, but
That is something that does not, I don't recall the date. It was, I don't recall the date when we became a no-kill shelter. I believe I might have said it in the meeting, and I don't recall what that date is. There was a philosophical difference when we had a new director at the time. Some of the grants we were applying for, and we got a Petco grant that could have been part of the reason why we chose to become a no-kill shelter, and that increased our chances of getting the grant. But if you looked at our euthanasia rates for the 10-year period, they've gone down to very little. 2014, 2013, we had over 400 euthanasias of animals, and this year we've had, at this point, 92. And so it's our commitment to do what's best for the animal, dog or cat.
We became a no-kill shelter in 2015, if you wanted the date.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yep.
So these animals are transferred at the expense of the city?
Yes. Sometimes we do use donation funds to do that.
Is it expensive to transfer an animal?
It's mileage and food, and gas and.
You put them on the bus or what?
No, we either have taken them with staff. Staff have taken a staff member to volunteer, have driven animals to various locations.
New Jersey, huh? That's
Well, and so just to give you a little example, since we're a little bit short-staffed, we have been looking at alternatives to transportation of dogs. Flying is the most expensive. There are pet transportation or animal transportation services, and due to the considerable distance to take a certain animal to New Jersey, we have looked at that. We are using that pet transportation service. Just because we would rather not lose our staff, two staff people for 3 days.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the point, but it's a point that I'm a little challenged with, as it's how much money do you have for a budget, and then you still have to take care of these animals.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not against, again, the dogs can't help it, but it's people that are causing the problem, so.
Any other questions about activity reports?
I like the new stone over at the cemetery. That looks nice.
Thank you.
And you're going to have more, is my understanding?
Yeah, we'll have the iron one done. It's being worked on as we speak, so it should be out probably in October. And the new Marymount sign was purchased this year, so it won't be out till next year. So,
That looks nice on Glen.
yeah, thank you.
I got a kind of question. Since they had the therapeutic walk, they had it at Kenwood Cove, are they gonna do it like during the winter now, or?
No, we've typically only offered that program in the summer when Kenwood Cove is open.
Okay.
We have looked at, in the past, before COVID, we did have an water exercise program for seniors held at a retirement home where they had a small pool. At this time, that retirement home no longer wishes for us to use that pool for that purpose. And also with some relationship we have with the YMCA, they might wish to offer pool time for us. That's a possibility. But we kind of stay away from water exercise, and we let the Y do water exercise since they can do it year-round and they have a heated indoor pool. So their therapeutic group used that pool in the summer. We have other activities for them that we do. Is any, I don't know what the current activities. I know we have a library program coming up for therapeutic. I think we've done bowling, ice cream nights, things like that. So we have plenty of programming we have available for our fall winter catalog, which I believe I handed out a copy of that last month. So there are some therapeutic activities in that catalog.
Any other questions? Anybody else? Okay, can we move on to old business?
Is that new or old?
Would that be new
New
business?
business starts, yeah.
New business? Okay, yeah. I look at the wrong lines here.
Oh, under
Yeah, it's on the front.
under new business, we have I've approached the board before about naming initiatives, whether it be tennis or baseball enterprises, Salina Baseball Enterprises, or various naming initiatives. There, in your packet, there is the naming guidelines for the city. So, and I want to make sure you had a copy of that. Within that policy is the guidelines and the different types of naming options that can be pursued. And there's also steps provided for us to name certain facilities. So you're part of that step for anything that's a Parks and Rec facility. We have a new business item is for you to consider a recommendation for a naming initiative that's brought forth by Salina Baseball Enterprises, and representatives from Salina Baseball Enterprises are here today to speak with you. In your packet, there's also a map that's been provided of the southern portion of Berkley Family Recreational Area, formerly called East Crawford Recreational Area. And the two fields that we're looking at today are Wilbur Field and Tower Baseball Field. They have two separate naming initiatives, or one initiative for two fields, and for Tower Field and for Wilbur Field. I'll let them get into some of the details, and you can ask questions of Salina Baseball Enterprises, but I wanted to kind of go through the steps real quick. The first step has already been done. The first step of the process was done a while back, where all areas of Berkley Family Recreational Area were deemed eligible for naming by the City Commission, and that was in 2019. They have filed applications, which are in your packet, and the applications are for Wilbur Field and Tower Field. And the city clerk provided verification of those applications and considered a valid application. And also part of the process is a public notification. So there was a posting in the newspaper, in the Salina Journal, regarding this meeting. So if people wanted to give their opinion about this naming initiative, they are more than welcome to come to this board. There's also letters of support included in your packet that were generated by Salina Baseball Enterprises, or received by Salina Baseball Enterprises, from USD 305 and from the Wilbur family. If you're not aware, there is a facility use agreement on Tower Field for USD 305 to have some rights to use that field because of their original contributions to the construction of the field. Few other points, and then I'll hand it over to Salina Baseball Enterprises. So the first step is that declaring that they're eligible for naming. 2 is the step of the application and the city clerk's verification of that. And 3rd step is go before the appropriate board, and the Salina Parks and Recreation Advisory Board is that appropriate board for this. The anticipated 4th and 5th step would be with the City Commission. and then it'll be a public hearing, and then a final review of their naming application and their plan. And that is tentatively scheduled for October 9th. Because there are time limits, I have to do this within 30 days of this meeting, so that's why it's October 9th. And at this point, I'll hand it over to the Salina Baseball Enterprises group.
Thank you for allowing us to be here today. My name is Byron Tomlins. I'm a board member of Salina Baseball Enterprises. With me today is Larry Brittigam and Kenny Hancock. They are board members of Salina Baseball Enterprises. 2 years ago, we started a project of baseball and softball renovation in Salina. In conjunction with the city, our vision was to remodel and regenerate Dean Evans Stadium and install softball diamonds. And we were ready to go with a project that would include Bill Burke Field and the diamonds we're talking about today. But COVID interrupted us, and so we took this entire project in a series of steps. Salina Baseball Enterprises, along with USD 305, Kansas Wesleyan, and several private donors, started the first step 2 years ago, and we totally remodeled Dean Evans, and we put 2 softball diamonds at South High, and we did that all on our own with the entities that I mentioned. Then, of course, the city came in after COVID, and they've done a wonderful job getting Bill Burke established, and that's ongoing. And then to complete this final step of what we feel that the city needs to be on par with surrounding communities and the facilities that they offer with baseball and softball tournaments, we are requesting this step. And so we're back in the game, so to speak, coming before you today. And our plan with this, I call it step 3 or a final step, to get the facilities up where we feel that Salina can then attract very large tournaments, both softball and baseball. And softball and baseball already provide the most revenue of any sport into a community. Visit Salina's statistics, not ours, and it's a definite plain facts that we would like to do a second premier diamond, just like Dean Evans, right next to Dean Evans, where right now Roger Wilbur Field, which is a practice field, exists, just to the north, right over the left field wall of Dean Evans. Our vision is to build another stadium totally turfed, just like Dean Evans, with a grandstand, all the facilities that Dean Evans has. And so if we can complete that project, Salina will have 2 fully turfed premier diamonds side by side. And then with Roger Wilbur Field, because Roger Wilbur was an intricate part of Salina Baseball Enterprises, he was a member of our original board. We were part of naming that diamond back in the past, and we wanted and talked with the Wilbur family to move Roger Wilbur Field from its current existence just south or just north of Dean Evans to south of the diamond that's by the water tower. People refer to it as Tower Field. It really doesn't have an official name, but we wanted to make that diamond Roger Wilbur Field. It's actually a better diamond today than the existing Roger Wilbur Field. And I actually worked for the Evans family growing up and know the Wilbur family as well as the Evans. And so I've talked with his then wife, Janet, and she's on board, and we have a letter of her acceptance of this project, because if they weren't comfortable that we weren't going forward, we just wanted to clear that area to help us in our fundraising, just like we did when we changed the name to Berkley Family Recreation. We use that as our fundraising so we can get public or private funds to support our project. The project for this step, going with a new premier diamond right north of Evans, and then moving Roger Wilbur Field to the south, the total cost of that is $3.1 million to do that. We're very sure of our figures. I would tell you that on our projects with Dean Evans and the softball stadiums, you can look back and our figures we met, and we're very sure of these also. So one of the ways that we achieve raising that the funds is the city very graciously has committed $900,000 to possibly $1 million, depending on the money we raise on this project. We have several donors that we've already contacted, and to this point, my figures say we've raised to this date $1.1 million. So we are $1 million short of our goal, and we really haven't started that aggressively, and I have all the confidence we can raise that because we did it before. But one of the ways that helps us is to offer naming rights for this new Premier Diamond. And what we've already done is secured a $500,000 donation for that. And that's why we're asking you to consider the new Premier Diamond's name will be the Pestinger Family Stadium. In order to qualify for naming a stadium, yes, the lead donation is important, but also the history is even more important. And I think other than the Evans family from the 50s through the 70s in Salina, the Pestinger family from the 90s to the present day has been as active as any family in Salina as supporting Little League Baseball, American Legion Baseball, baseball teams of all ages down throughout the years. And yes, both Tom and his son Dustin have been members of our board, but they were not allowed to vote on this issue. The board kicked them out of the room, and because they're very generous family, and they've contributed to baseball, and the rest of our board felt that they deserved it, and they're humbled by that. And so it is our board that brings this recommendation to you today. And we feel like we've followed the steps. This is what we would like to do, and we would ask for your support. And I would answer any questions that you have on the process that we have gone through or intend to go through. The bottom line is we hold the Grand Slam tournament for many years in July. And it's a great tournament, and people love to come to Salina because it's a great location. Right now, what we're struggling with is we have Dean Evans, which is, this year we held our tournament, and they said, this is probably the best stadium we played on all year on these teams, that now the evolution of summer baseball is just tournaments, and that's why American Legion has kind of died in the state of Kansas and a lot of other states because, the old model is breaking down, and the kids want tournaments and showcases, recruiting opportunities, and it's been very hard to adapt, and we've tried to do our best with traveling teams. Well, what helps us is to run these big tournaments and give them exposure. We understand their need for that. But when you play one day on Dean Evans, and then you go to the next day right now on the current Wilbur Field or James Matson Field, it is way down and way low as far as quality of what it needs to be. And teams that circulate through the state see that we have probably one of the best diamonds, but after that, we're way below. We're way below a C average on the rest of those diamonds. And so we feel like this final step of another premier diamond, hopefully Our goal and our vision is to break this 3.1 million and do some more on Matson and the new Roger Wilbur Field. And we will liquidate our account with this because we're going all out as far as Salina Baseball Enterprises. We don't keep any of the money. Every cent we raise goes into the facilities of Salina. And so that's our vision, and thanks for your time today. Yes,
So
Ann?
is Matson just off our map here? Is it up there?
Yeah,
that what
it
that
is the diamond furthest to the north
Okay.
off of Margley Field right when you come in. And to give you a little history, James Matson played in our program. Unfortunately, he died way too early from cancer, and his friends petitioned Salina years ago to get that field named after him. Roger Wilbur was original board member of Salina Baseball Enterprises, but again, along with Dean Evans and Evans Grain, his company, Evco, sponsored many teams back from the 70s through the 80s. And then when Gary Ray, Dean Evans' then son-in-law, established Salina Baseball Enterprises, Roger Wilbur was on the initial board. And so all these people are not just randomly selected. They are pioneers in developing baseball in Salina. And us three are old enough, we grew up in this era, and we understand the benefits that we got from all of these individuals, and that's another reason why we're here today.
Appreciate all the support you guys have given to Salina with baseball.
Yep, thank
It's
you.
nice to see Bill Burke Park, no rainouts this year. It
And that's
was-
all
yeah.
on the city. I want to give them a shout out because the city did all of that on their own. We did not, we did the first part. We had to
Yeah.
split it up, and we said, we'll go first. And they're doing a great job there, and shout out to them for
I
that.
appreciate all the stuff you do.
So what do you need from us today?
Well, I'd just like your approval on our plan so we can go forward, because the reason why it's important is for fundraising, obviously, but we also have to do that with courtesy. And I worked for Roger Wilbur and Dean Evans. I only am here to salute them. I understand people might question, well, you're moving Roger Wilbur down here and doing the new Premier Diamond. Yeah, but I know Roger, and I know he would have been very much in favor of this, because it's all about how do we improve the facilities in Salina and take the load off the city of Salina 100%. That, one thing unique about Salina, if you look, there's no other city that I'm aware of that has these partnerships. And you look at the field house and the Stiefel, Dean Evans Stadium, which in 1984 we established that with the city and Salina Baseball Enterprises and built it. Then we remodeled it. And there are several examples of public and private donorships agreement. And I now live in Topeka because my grandkids want to harass us every day. And so when my wife and I retired, we moved to Topeka. But I've even had people in Topeka come up and say, look what, we heard you're involved in this, and we want to know, how do you do this? Because we can't accomplish this. And I said, well, it's the citizens and the community. They're invested, and they truly are. So it's unique, and that's why we keep coming back.
So I make a motion that we approve the changing of the names for both of the fields.
If you can pause there a second, if it can be phrased as make a recommendation to support or recommendation to not support, or if you can phrase it that way,
That we recommend?
that makes it.
I move that we recommend. Does that sound better?
Initiative.
Naming the initiative, the naming initiative,
That'd be great.
Okay.
and whatever else you need to write down.
I'll second it.
Maybe I'll second it. I think if you're the chair, you
Oh,
have
okay.
to just
Go ahead.
run it, but I'll second. Not
Okay,
sure.
so then
All in
motion made. She seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All not in favor, same sign. Looks like the motion's passed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time today, and we'll work hard and get this done.
Okay.
I'm kind of new at this, so don't worry too much.
It's all right. What? Yeah, old business.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Any old business?
Yeah, he's got some old business, doesn't he? Jeff has some old business, right?
I
We
created a
already did
separate
it.
category in the agenda called project updates. That's the next section.
Oh, okay.
Um,
He's going to do the old business there. So we go right on.
Project updates. I started speaking about some of these items earlier. Pickleball. The area was, from our last meeting till now, we've made considerable progress. The north and south tennis courts at Oakdale were demoed. They were removed. And the contractor was got them under contract to start the renovations for pickleball. We brought in crushed concrete, had it compacted, started creating forms, and they were pouring concrete today on 2 of the 3 pads for pickleball, and that is a post-tension concrete. So there's rods of steel running through that will be put under tension in the next 30 days while it cures. And very exciting, and they're really doing a great job with the timeline, and I look forward to a December where we potentially could be opening these to the public if weather holds, but there's some caveats to that. You never know about weather and things like that.
So the north area where the tennis courts were just going to go to grass?
We're preparing to, yes, we're going to have soil brought in, and that soil will be graded and seeded, and then put some type of straw matting down to allow it to grow seed or grow grass. One point I want to throw out there is that the lights that were at tennis are going to remain. So there's 8 total posts. This is the plan right now. The 4 lights that are for pickleball will be for pickleball in the future, as they were for tennis in the past. There are 4 lights that are on the north section that would just be grass, but those lights for now will remain, and we could use it for recreational purposes. We can rent out lights for some recreational play under that. Those lights are also important for a Smoky Hill River Festival and nighttime activities. So for now, the plan is to keep those lights there. They are a working asset, and we don't want to just take something down just for the sake of taking something down. There will be some future improvements to that lighting. We want to look at LED structures or LED fixtures and some modernization of how they're controlled, like a push-button system or a keypad system.
So the fence that's along there, that's there at the Smoky Hill River Festival when you're walking over to stage 2, is that where we're talking about? Like the tennis courts are right next to that, right?
I don't know what fence you're referring to. I'm sorry.
It's really tall, right?
Yeah,
You-
yeah,
you know,
they've taken that fencing
There
out
were
now.
12 foot.
Took it out
The
already.
12-foot fence that was around the tennis courts is gone.
Okay,
They will be coming back with an 8-foot black coated fence around the pickleball courts.
okay, thank you.
Yep. Tennis bathrooms. Just this past Monday, we had a presentation at City Commission about working on the tennis bathrooms. So when we talk about tennis bathrooms, I'm referring to the old municipal pool at Kenwood Park. And the bathrooms that are there will be converted and updated and modernized to be used for that tennis facility. And the project right now that we authorized on Monday was to do a majority of that work, not from one contractor, but from several different contractors, which will be overseen by our facilities maintenance department. And there's several different things that will be occurring. Plumbing for sure, electrical improvements, with the overall goal to give a better accessibility to those bathrooms from the tennis court so they can support the tennis court operation, to achieve a level of code compliance, because right now we don't have enough bathrooms there, to accommodate the attendance that could occur at the tennis facility. Tennis events right now are using bathrooms at Tony's Pizza Event Center, or we're bringing in porta potties, which is not the ideal look. So we want to be able to have enough bathrooms to support up to 400 people, and that's what the plan is, to make those tennis bathrooms available. Also, to modernize the bathrooms to make them look like Bill Burke bathrooms. They'll have epoxy floors and updated finishes, and they'll look great. Jerry Ivy Memorial Park, the pond there, I think it was today, Dennis, that you stated to me that they're almost done. They've brought in topsoil, and they're preparing to seed tomorrow, and so that project will be done. There's some additional work that Dennis is looking at to improve the landscaping around there, and now we'll be going on to kind of replacing a water feature at, well, let me back up a minute. There's some work that needs to be done to go into the next phase for Jerry Ivy, which is replacing a water feature at the park. So that's part of the study session that I'm preparing for City Commission, is to kind of look at some options of what we identified for a water feature to replace the pond at Jerry Ivy Park. And that would probably be something that will be decided in 2024. There's quite a bit of work that needs to go into that on the beforehand. We need to, come to a determination on a design, what we want to do, assign the funding source to that, and obviously go to bid and get a construction. So there's a future construction project in our future. Bill Burke fencing and other improvements, as Mr. Tomlins with Salina Baseball Enterprises mentioned, the work is ongoing at Bill Burke. Sometime the third week of October, the contractor that we selected from the bidding process will be starting work in Bill Burke to improve all the fencing, gates, and also add concrete, put in a couple new dugouts. They're putting in 2 premier dugouts, and refurbishing our existing dugouts. Some need new concrete pads. All of them need new roofs. So they're doing a lot of that work to go into our next phase of improvements at Bill Burke Park. And if there's any questions about any of those items, feel free to ask. The Bill Burke project will be done probably March 31st, at the end of March in 2024, before the start of next baseball season. But be happy to entertain any questions you might have about any of those projects, or any projects I didn't mention for that matter.
The water feature that you were talking about, is that determined by the city commissioners to approve that? Or I kind of thought we were just going with grass.
We are going with grass in that area. The area that would potentially, we would have an improvement on, or a fountain or a water feature on, may or may not be on that site. It would be at Jerry Ivy Park, but it doesn't necessarily would be on the site where the pond was previously. That location would be subject to project planning that we really haven't started yet. What we have started is what I believe I shared with you before, was the citizen survey that showed some of the options that could be done, and to try to get a sense of what the community would like to see. There wasn't an overwhelming consensus of what they would like to see, but some of the things that I picked up on the citizen survey would be, they wanted something that had flowing water, something that was a natural look, something that had a stone component or some type of a rock component with it. Yeah, so it was something that was pretty, something that fitted with Jerry Ivy Park, and something that was within a cost price of between $500,000 to $650,000. If I didn't, I would make sure. I'm not sure. Did the board members recall me providing that citizen survey results to you?
I think so. I remember us taking it. Did we?
Yeah, we took that survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that I will make sure I provide to you in the future. Then the results of that citizen survey.
I was a few minutes late putting that in. Because I remember it was on the computer and you decided what you were going to do. And
Right.
So does this board approve it, or does it the city commissioners, or we don't?
Ultimately, the advisory board is a advisory. It's recommendations, just like you gave a recommendation for the naming initiative from Salina Baseball Enterprises. But I would say that your recommendation does weigh into their decision-making process. But yes, ultimately, it would be with the governing bodies, the city commission's decision to authorize a project or authorize the funding for a project. But with that being said, I do have I believe it's in my best interest and your best interest as the representatives of the advisory board to see that. And I would make sure you do see that. And
Announcements?
that's any general announcements?
I don't have any general announcements to provide unless any of the board members have any general
Like
announcements.
we all did that, huh? Anybody make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I second it.
No.
All in favor? Aye.
Try to make better. You guys are doing good. Yeah, thank you.